In February 2023, the parent company of the Los Angeles Guerrillas, Chronicle Sports and Entertainment, released a majority of their esports staff around Call of Duty and the Overwatch League. It was pretty clear that they wanted to get out of the Call of Duty League and esports in general, as the team has really struggled in the last few years since the league started. We've seen it with other orgs like Las Vegas Legion, and LAG is looking to do a similar transfer here with a relatively new European organization ran by none other than the French monster Gotaga, and that would be Gentlemates. Now they gotta have probably one of the worst team names in esports history. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but I'm assuming it had to do with like deadlines and team branding and all that type of stuff. But the Los Angeles Guerrillas are now called the Los Angeles Guerrillas Mates. That's rough. Either way, Gentlemates is buying their way into the CDL, but have to keep this branding for the season. And as I'm recording this video, it's not 100% confirmed. Like, Gentlemates hasn't come out with some announcement or anything, but I'm almost positive this is happening. If something changes, I'll talk about it on the channel. And their rumored roster makes things even more interesting, because going into the Black Ops 6 season, Gentlemates has acquired the former 2023 NYSL championship squad minus Hydra plus Lynz, who is going into his second year in the Call of Duty League. And if they want to replicate that success from 2023, Lynz has some pretty big shoes to fill. But let's take a deeper look into how this new team formed and why they might be better than we think. Now, while Gentlemates may be new to Call of Duty, they've been around esports for the last few years in Rocket League and League of Legends. But now on the Call of Duty side, Gotaga, a former COD pro himself, actually known as one of the best French Call of Duty players of all time, is the current owner of this org, and he seems to be really excited about being a part of this growing COD esports scene. I mean, he has his roots in Call of Duty from all the way back to 2009 during COD 4, but Gotaga really made a name for himself in the early 2010s during games like Black Ops, MW3, and even into Ghost. His time as a pro player came to a close just a few years later, but he's still been involved in esports and has become a really popular personality on YouTube and Twitch. And if the name Gentlemates sounds familiar, it's because they actually competed in the Esports World Cup in August 2024. The Los Angeles Guerrillas were the only CDL team to decline their invite to the Esports World Cup, which was kind of like the final straw for everyone to see that they really wanted nothing to do with Call of Duty anymore. But the Gentlemates Challengers team was able to compete at the Esports World Cup with the roster of Bance, Cobra, Denza, and Harry. And as a CDL fan, I love seeing Call of Duty be more global and people from all around the world competing at this level. And now we have a European team, even though they're technically the Los Angeles Guerrillas, but it's just cool to see Call of Duty expanding. And the same could be said for even the Warzone side of things. The Esports World Cup just kind of brought everyone together and put Call of Duty on a global stage. Unfortunately, the Gentlemates did not make it far and only played 3 matches at the Esports World Cup, going 1 and 2 in the group stages. But that was like Gotaga and Gentlemates' initial dip into the Call of Duty League. And as we know now, they have fully immersed themselves into this esport. Now, I have a full video on the downfall of the Los Angeles Guerrillas. It'll be linked in the description below. So that's the story of how Gentlemates found its way into the Call of Duty League for the Black Ops 6 season. But what makes things even more interesting is the roster that they signed going into this season. Now, when Gentlemates first got involved in the off season, there were a lot of rumors that they might get Scrap and Hydra, and they actually had thrown bids for them, but ultimately Hydra and Scrap were bought out by LA Thieves, so they had to continue to look in the free agent pool for other players. And they were blessed to come across the former NYSL champ squad with KiSMET, Skyz, and their old friend Priestahh. They couldn't get Hydra, but they added Lynz, who is a young French player currently making a way for himself in the COD League, and his future is looking promising. This year could be the biggest year of them all. But let's take a look at the players to see how they came up and ended up on LAG Mates for BO6. And first we got KiSMET, also known as the Bulldog, and he competed before the COD League in the CWL era as an online player, placing well in online tournaments until 2020 when he joined Paris Legion at the beginning of the Call of Duty League. Paris Legion had French players on their team, but they also had KiSMET, and he played fairly well at the beginning of his career in the COD League, maintaining like a top 6 spot with Paris Legion. But when it was all said and done at COD Champs, he placed top 10, and Call of Duty was going back from 5v5 to 4v4 for the Cold War season, and KiSMET was the odd man out. He joined the Challengers League for the Cold War season and found a pretty good squad with GodRx, Pander, and Pentagram, building his stock as a consistent SMG player, and would continue to play in Challengers for the start of the Vanguard season on Texas Nation, rubbing shoulders with players like Colt Havoc. Now, Havoc actually got an offer from NYSL during the season, which he rejected, but later on in the season, NYSL offered that spot to KiSMET, who eventually accepted it, joining alongside Crim6, Paul X, and Hydra. What makes things even crazier is that right after KiSMET got picked up at the Pro-Am Classic, he won his first LAN event with the team after rejoining the COD League. It's honestly just a crazy story of how everything played out from him going to Challengers. He went on to finish top 2 at Major 4 and earned his spot on NYSL going into the Modern Warfare 2 season. He had a lot of pressure coming in mid-season, but he showed up when it mattered and earned a job for the Modern Warfare 2 season, which we all know was the biggest year for KiSMET and the other guys on NYSL. Crim6 retired after the Vanguard season, and NYSL kept Hydra and KiSMET, picking up Skyz and Priestahh. Now, Skyz started in the COD League as well and worked his way through the league to become a major role player. Pretty interesting because he started by carrying Courage and Maven in online Black Ops 3 S&D tourneys and really got his name out there. He had been playing during the CWL era of Call of Duty on UYU and eventually found a spot on the Florida Mutineers for his first season in the CDL. He found some success with Florida, winning a few weeks during the online league with Pharaoh, Frosty, Havoc, and Awakening. And it was because of his consistency this season that he was offered a spot on Florida for the Cold War season, accepting the position with a pretty similar squad to the previous season. He didn't find the same success in Cold War, but statistically, he was one of the best players on his team. And once again, his consistency paid off because they even kept him for another season during Vanguard, which ended up being a pretty rough season for Skyz in Florida as a whole. Top 6 was their best placement throughout the season, but Skyz had built his stock as a consistent main AR. I actually came across a Reddit thread that said, "Facts or cap, Skyz has been a top 5 main since BO4. Facts, I don't know how anyone could disagree. He's consistently among the best LAN performers. Agreed, you always forget about him because he's kind of average online, but when it matters, he's dropping a 1.2 on LAN. I think him and Draws are the 2 best ARs when it comes down to S&D as well. Definitely since MW 2019 when he was at worst a top 2 main in that game. Florida just stopped winning in Cold War and Vanguard when he was a flex, and people forgot about him. Last year, I think the only 2 mains better than him were Octane and Dashy. So the community was pretty high on Skyz, which eventually led him to NYSL and Modern Warfare 2. And Priestahh might be a more familiar name to you because he's been around the COD esports scene longer than anyone on this team and has been competing for over a decade. I mean, before he was 18 years old, he was already making a name for himself online and grinded his way into the CWL LAN events. He would build his stock in the CWL and become a well-known player in competitive COD. Priestahh even teamed with Aches at one point to qualify for the Pro League in Infinite Warfare, but he would get his biggest opportunity when he got a chance to play for FaZe Clan during World War II with Zuma, Attach, and Replays. They found some success that season and will ultimately place 3rd at COD Champs in 2018, winning $100,000, and he would remain on FaZe for the Black Ops 4 season, eventually getting traded to 100 Thieves towards the end of the season. And during his time with 100 Thieves, he won back-to-back LAN events with the team at CWL London and CWL Anaheim. To make things even better, he placed 2nd at COD Champs and was earning paychecks left and right. He was proving to people that he knows what it takes to win, which secured him a spot going into the COD League era. And in Modern Warfare 2019, he joined Atlanta FaZe with Celium, Major Maniac, Abizi, and Sim. And while he wasn't their best player, he contributed to their success throughout the season, and they finished 1st overall by the end of the season. But during COD Champs in 2020, Dallas Empire would go on to beat them in the finals. He went back-to-back 2nd places at COD Champs, so I know he was hungry to get that trophy. After MW19, Rocker offered Priestahh a roster spot, and he accepted it with an entirely different lineup and system that he wasn't used to, and it really showed because he didn't find much success throughout Cold War. Besides the Stage 5 Major, where they took home the gold with Standy, Major Maniac, and Attach, they had underwhelming placements, especially with a winning player like Priestahh, but he remained on Rocker for the rest of the season and was becoming known as a selfless, dominant flex player who gave other people a chance to work on the map, making plays and really being a gap filler role. NYSL recognized his talents after this season, even though he didn't play that well statistically. At the end of the day, stats aren't everything with Priestahh because he contributes a lot more, and that is where all 3 of their stories intersect with one another as they all joined forces on NYSL alongside Hydra for the MW2 season. They had success at Major 1 but didn't really make any waves until the end of the year, and Hydra was just having MVP performances left and right, and they were easily one of the top 3 teams in the game throughout the year, especially at the end of the year, and proved it at COD Champs in 2023. I brought it up many times on this channel, but it's just too good not to talk about. NYSL lost to Toronto Ultra early in the tournament, and Scrap had a little trash talk for the team, but they met up once again in the Champs Grand Finals, where KiSMET had an absolute masterclass last series, having a 1.04 overall and a 1.45 in S&D, and they smacked up Toronto Ultra in the grand finals, winning their first COD League championship. So going into the Modern Warfare 3 season, they kept the same squad minus Priestahh because Sib became available throughout free agency, and NYSL considered it a pack-a-punch, which was a controversial change throughout the offseason going into MW3. Some people saying you don't drop a player after winning 3 events together, team dynamic matters. NYSL without Priestahh and with Sib or whoever else probably doesn't win 3 total events including champs last season. But going into a new season, it's better for them to bet on a more consistent player with higher ceilings that are better long term. Now this comment didn't really age well because during the Modern Warfare 3 season, NYSL only won 1 event and made a run to 2nd place at the 2024 COD champs, but got slammed by Optic Texas, and then the team disbanded shortly after. And while NYSL found success, for Priestahh it was actually quite the opposite. He was actually forced into free agency and then joined the Boston Breach for Modern Warfare 3, and they were the worst team in the league all season, and he got put into a really difficult position on Boston Breach with constant team changes, no structure, shadow GMs, you name it, it happened on Boston Breach in Modern Warfare 3. And this could have really lowered his stock going into Black Ops 6, but Gentlemate sees his talent and ability to win as an asset, and these players have a lot to prove going forward. But the player that probably has the most to prove here is Lynz, because Lynz is going into his 2nd year in the CDL, and he began grinding in online tournaments, eventually making his way into the European Challengers League, teaming with other players like Abuza and Cobra. And during the Modern Warfare 2 season, he became one of the best players in Challengers on a Wobbabobs. What a team name, by the way. I don't even know if I said that right. He started winning Challengers Cups consistently and even won the Toronto Open LAN event in May 2023. And it was pretty obvious that he was going to get signed to a pro team. But people saying Lynz is arguably the best rookie SMG, and I'd honestly be surprised if he isn't good at the pro level. I'd predict this rumored roster will be in the top 6 to 10 range. Doubt they'll win any events, but I could see them making a Sunday if they go on a run or have a favorable bracket. This comment turned out to be true as Lynz joined Minnesota Rocker alongside Accuracy, Attach, and Vivid. And during his first major, Lynz became the 7th player to place top 4 or better at their rookie debut LAN. The rest of the season was really a struggle as Minnesota Rocker and Lynz placed top 10 at nearly every other event. But Lynz provided helpful SMG slang power and got good experience in the league. He did well enough to where the Gentlemates have belief in this kid that he could be the spark that this team needs to compete with the top 3 in the CDL. But that's the roster that we got: KiSMET, Lynz, Priestahh, and Skyz. Some people reacting saying, "Mom, can we get Hydra? We got Hydra at home." Now we'll truly know how important Hydra actually was. I do not feel confident about this team personally. Honestly, I think Priestahh was one of the better flexes available with how the maps will likely play and the pace of the game. I think he's a better option than a lot of other players. Honestly, the battle for the 4th spot between the rest of the teams is going to be super interesting next season. So they're going to have to try and compete for that top 4 spot in the league. And they could really be a dark horse because they have players on their team that know how to win at the highest level. And they can teach Lynz how to become a winner after having a losing season during Modern Warfare 3. I don't think that they can replicate the same system that they had with NYSL because nobody is on Hydra's level as far as slaying power goes. So they're going to need to make some adjustments to their system. But I really think this team could make a few Sundays going forward and will be a pretty solid team if they can find that same team chemistry from 2023. I'm sure there'll be an official announcement coming soon, but until then, this is what we know as of right now. But where do you see this team's average placement? Let me know down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, you got to check out my video where I talked about the downfall of the Los Angeles Guerrillas. I'll have it linked in the description, or it should be on the screen right now if I did it right. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, peace.